So, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Urvashi Mulasi, and I have done cooking demonstrations for the cardiovascular wellness program for a few years now. And I teach nutrition at Sauteed. I started teaching from fall 2016, and I have always enjoyed cooking and sharing stories about my culture. I'm originally from India, so I use a lot of spices in my cooking, and I have shared some of my recipes with the program, and it's always a pleasure to present and cook for this group. So I have never done this before. This is my first time doing this in the virtual environment. And I have a laptop that's set there, but I cannot zoom in my pan that I'm cooking, but I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing and what will be, so what works best. Linda, do you have any suggestions on that?
Maybe pick your pan up from time to time and show it over by your calendar, but it's all good. It's all good.
Okay.
Whatever.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so let's get started. By the way, how much time do I have? I'll keep a note of my time, Linda. How much time do I get for this?
Well, at least an hour if you want.
Okay. I don't think I'll need an hour. So I have already done the prep work, most of the prep work, so we should be okay. So today I will be making some sauteed broccoli with some very good spices. And I have some broccoli florets here already, kind of loosely cut. I got this from the farmer's market. I'm also going to use the broccoli leaves, which I think shouldn't be wasted. So I'm gonna just try that today. So I have this cut and washed, ready to go. And I have other prep work here. I have, this is my mortar and pestle. I use this for my cooking. I have a huge selection here at the back in all different sizes because I tend to grind my fresh spices as I'm using, especially fresh ginger and garlic. I tend to use that a lot. So I have that here. What I have here is 4 to 5 garlic cloves and maybe an inch of ginger. And I just loosely chop them and then I mash them here in this mortar and pestle along with 3 or 4 whole black peppercorns. So this is a trick I feel like really brings in the spice out if you are using the crushed spices. Freshly ground black pepper has a very nice aroma, and you can actually use it. The mortar and pestle works fine for that. So again, I have some garlic cloves, some ginger, some fresh ginger here, and a few black peppercorns. You just like smash them; they're ready to go. And what I have heard is that if you're using garlic, fresh garlic, it's always better to kind of smush it or mash it a little bit before you put in the pan because it allows those aromatic flavors from the garlic to come out, and you can usually really enjoy that flavor very well. It cooks well as well. Okay, so I have that. I have other spices here. I'm going to tell you what I add in the pan and occasionally show you what I'm adding in the pan. I have about 1 medium onion that's been chopped, just sliced here, not finely chopped, just like longitudinally sliced. I'm going to cut tomatoes in a bit, and I'm going to chop them for our presentation. So that's that. And in my pan here, I have some oil. You can use olive oil if you want, or any kind of oil. I also have avocado oil. Sometimes I use that. So you can use about 2 tablespoons of oil. So I have the oil already in the pan and it's heating. So that's, I think, the key thing. When you add spices in the pan, it's very important for you to, first of all, heat the pan itself appropriately. And then you add the oil and then you leave the oil alone for at least a few seconds for it to really get that temperature you need. And then you start adding the spices. So the oil is hot now because I had it prepped for our presentation. It is hot. And what I'm going to add in this is I have some cumin seeds, maybe a teaspoon of cumin seeds here. And I'm going to just add that to the oil. And I also have some mustard seeds. They're black mustard seeds. You can get in any ethnic store has them. So maybe half a teaspoon of black mustard seeds and 1 teaspoon of cumin seeds. So it's kind of spluttering. The pan is splattering here. You can see the here. And once you don't want the cumin to be in the oil for a long period of time because otherwise it's going to get burned and then it will be very bitter. So right after that, I'm going to add my ginger, garlic, and full peppercorn mashed paste here. I will add that to the pan. And this really brings out the flavors in this dish. Okay. And I have my, maybe I'm wrong, just very gently stir it up a little bit and let it be for maybe 1 or 2 minutes because what I'm looking for here is I want that garlic to be a little bit like brownish, not really brown. I'm not really burning it here, but that toasty flavor, that slightly brown color in it, so that the next thing can be added. Again, if you burn it too much, it's going to get bitter in taste, so we don't want that. So that's that. And I can see here now it's getting a little bit brown in color. At this point, I will add my onions. So I have 1 medium onion just sliced, and I will add that to the pan. Just stirring it a little bit. So let me actually put the camera down here for you. So it looks that I use red onions and it really smells really good right now here with all this onion and garlic and ginger. And at this point, I mean, the stove flame was, I would say, low to medium. When I added the onion, I'm going to definitely make sure it's in medium because I want these onions to somewhat cook. But again, I'm not caramelizing them. I'm not going to overcook them, just enough. So maybe 2-3 minutes should suffice once I add the onions. And I'm going to make sure I keep on stirring the pot occasionally because you don't want it to get stuck in the bottom, and again it will burn and then it affects the whole dish. So we do that. One other trick I learned with onions, that's my recent cooking trick, is that when you add onions, add maybe a pinch of salt. So I have sea salt here. I'm going to add a pinch of it on top of my onions because it squeezes the water out of the onions and helps it cook better. And it just somehow, I think it just makes it better. I don't know. Yeah, there's something to it. So you add a pinch of salt, and as soon as I added the salt, you can visibly see it in your dish that the onions start getting, the water is getting out of the onions, and the dish is it's not too dry. It looks good. In the consistency and texture, it looks very good. So that's that. And I'm just going to let it now. I'm going to sim it in low for maybe 1 or 2 more minutes or something. But do you have any questions for me as I am waiting for this dish to be in the next stage? And I'm also going to start chopping the tomatoes in the time being. So any questions for me? Or have you tried using spices in your cooking? And what kind of spices do you use in your cooking?
I would like to ask a question. Can you leave the oil out and just can you leave the oil out?
Oh, okay. You mean for storage purposes?
For what purpose?
She means no, not to cook with it, to omit it from the recipe.
Not to cook with the oil. Just use something else, or onions or whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So instead of the oil, if you can use something else, you're saying?
Yes.
You can try I've had sometimes people put a little bit of water, just maybe a tablespoon or so of water, and then put the onions and spices together. You can try that. Certainly you can try that way as well. I mean, I have not personally tried this dish without the oil, but I mean, if you use less quantity or healthier versions like olive oil or avocado, or and avocado is very expensive, but olive oil certainly, you know, you could try that, or you could make it without the oil as well. I think one other thing you
Okay.
could do is, because I'm using broccoli here, so you could just steam it, and after steaming it, you can just add spices on top of it, like turmeric, sea salt, some freshly ground black pepper. You can add on top of that if that's something. You can still bring spices in your cooking without using the oil.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
When you smash the garlic and so on in the mortar and pestle, if you cut the garlic up very fine, will that allow you not to use the mortar and pestle? In my move, my good mortar and pestle moved, and the one I have left is only for dry spices. So
Okay,
I guess I could get another one, but I usually try to chop it real fine. And
that will do. That will just do. Yeah, it doesn't have to be mashed. One other thing I learned is that, you know, that I have, like, for example, you have garlic. This is a full garlic, but I mean, let's say you have a garlic clove. You can use like a big knife, and you put the garlic, like this is your chopping board. You just smash it like that, and that will do as well. You know, it doesn't have to be like, you know, mashed in a mortar and pestle per se. That's not the requirement.
And I do that. I do that, and I would warn people when they try it, if it's that big a knife, to keep your hand flat over the top, so that the point doesn't
Yes.
keep your other hand away.
Definitely, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I completely agree on that. So make sure the safety first in the kitchen. No doubt about it. All right, so my onions are getting a bit, like, you know, they're getting cooked, right? And they're getting a little bit, the color is changing. They're becoming translucent somewhat in color. And, you know, with that, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the broccoli florets in it. Okay, and I'm going to, this is all in medium now. So the broccoli florets have been added. And at this stage is when you add spices to your dish. So the main spices I have here are, I have turmeric powder, ground turmeric powder. So you can use maybe like a teaspoon of the turmeric powder in this dish. Okay. I also have cayenne pepper, because since we added black peppercorns in our ginger garlic, I'm not going to add a lot of it because this is not a spicy dish, but a little bit, maybe a 4th teaspoon of the, or maybe less than that, maybe even a 1/8 of a teaspoon if you wish. So this is all for your taste purposes. So am I using Chinese broccoli?
No.
I don't think so. No, this is just a usual. So, and I got this from the farmer's market, and it was just, you know, a full broccoli head. All right, so that's that. And I have maybe a teaspoon of salt. I know that you are restricting your salt intake, so salt can be added based on your taste preference, or you can even skip it if you want. You know, if you're skipping the salt, what I usually do is, I recommend you can do like black pepper. You can do some pinch of turmeric, and you can squeeze some fresh lemon on top to give it that little bit of like, you know, to the dish overall. So I added this teaspoon of salt here for my dish, and I'm going to just stir it. I sometimes use like 2 ladles to stick it so that it's not like a salad. You're going to toss it up a little bit, making sure the ingredients are equally distributed. Okay. So I'm going to cook, this is now in sim, I'm going to cook it for 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'm going to cover it up for maybe 4 or 5 minutes. I'm going to cover it up, and you can check the consistency depending on what works for you. Some people like it crunchy, others might like it a bit more cooked. So you can use it, whatever works best for you for your this thing. The cool thing about this dish is that you can use it for a variety of ways. You can serve this sauteed broccoli with some brown rice, for example, or white rice. You could also stuff this in a sandwich. So you just toast the bread and you add this vegetable as a filling, and you can, you know, use that as your lunch. You can also serve this with pasta and so many other things you can do with it. Or you can just eat it raw, just like that, as a salad, a warm salad. You can have that as well. Okay. So while this is, now I'm going to cover this up. If I can find my lid here.
Hey, Linda.
Yeah.
There was a question if you were using Chinese broccoli.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not. I'm
No.
not. No. Okay, I'm looking for my lid. All right, I'm gonna cover my pan up, and this is now in sim. It's gonna cook for some time. The last thing I'm gonna add on top of it is lemon. So I have a cut lemon here. I'm gonna squeeze it on top of it after it is done. So I'm gonna leave it for some time now. One more thing I'm gonna add is before the lemon, as a garnish, or if you wanna cook it with it as well, is tomatoes. So I was chopping the tomatoes for that. So I'm gonna quickly chop I have one medium tomato here. So I'm just roughly chopping it. It doesn't have to be perfectly chopped. So you can just roughly chop that. Okay. And I'm gonna add that on top of the broccoli. Just maybe give it a little bit of stir, not too much. Because I don't want my tomatoes to cook a lot. So, but it'll give you sufficient time for it to absorb the spices. And this looks very good, by the way. The colors are just perfect. If you look at that, it's nice green, and the tomatoes kind of bring that red color to the dish. The onions, and, it looks great. So I'm not gonna overcook this. I'm gonna leave it for a few more minutes, and then towards the very end, I'll add some lemon, squeeze some lemon on top, and that would be it. It's a pretty simple dish. It's straightforward. It can be, the same dish can be made with a variety of vegetables. I've used the same ingredients for cabbage, cauliflower, so all the nice cruciferous vegetables that we all need. And there are plenty of available in the farmer's market. I was there in the farmer's market 2 weeks ago, and they had yellow cabbage and purple cabbage, and they had cauliflowers in different colors, and broccoli. So they are all available now. And one more thing I've done as a substitution is I have used green onions instead of the red onions, and it turns out just fine with that as well. So you can mix and match. You can use your imagination as you're cooking in your kitchen, and just use the recipes based on what works well for you. I have one more point. Sometimes I've also used raw garlic. I know that's something that some people like, the raw garlic itself, for health reasons. So in that case, once the dish is done, you just slice the garlic or the ginger, and then you sprinkle them on top. So if you are okay having it that way, because it has a very strong flavor, of course, you can try that. And so that's the dish itself. And I can talk a little bit about the medicinal value of the spices itself in a bit, but I wanted to give you a chance to ask any questions, or if you think you might try this dish, or have you tried something like this before, or do you like broccoli, or anything else you want to share? Okay.
I can share.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, let me turn on my video.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So I love how you put the tomatoes on top of it as like a garnish. I always do that, and it really does bring out the dish very well, and it's very refreshing as well. So you're eating like a semi-warm dish, but then you have like the tomatoes that are not very smushed, and they're very it's like al dente almost. So it tastes very well. I do the same concept when I do chards. Like beet chards, the chards on the any color chards. Yeah. And then you can do the chards with the watering sauteing method that you suggested in the beginning instead of oil.
Yeah.
And then put the tomatoes on top of it, and it's just really good.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Diana. I love that. That's a great suggestion. And talking about the same things, I have used this with the other greens as well. You can use it with chard, for example, or even kale. So a simple dish with kale is that you can either use the water method or the oil method. You just add the kale, and literally all you add is some salt, some black pepper, and a pinch of turmeric. And you'll be surprised to know how well the dish is. And sometimes I add a little bit of vinegar on top as well. So you can play with fat, salt, acid, like the vinegar or lemon or salt. And if you're using oil, and you can manipulate that in your dishes to make it as you think will bring out the flavors best. But that's some creative ways to add greens in your eating. I also use kale in my omelets a lot. I think that's a great way to get the greens in, and even like chopped spinach. You can add that in your omelet, and it just brings in that flavor pretty well. So
I agree. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I think my dish is almost done here, and I'm going to just finish it off by just squeezing some lemon on top. That's it. Nothing too much. And believe me, it smells, I wish you could smell this. That's the disadvantage of the virtual atmosphere we have here. But you can actually see the colors and the flavors here. It looks great, actually. And you can use this for a variety of settings. I've used this again with couscous. I've used this with just bread, rice, you name it, quinoa, you can add that, and any kind of grain can go with it, and it just brings in the overall flavor of the dish. So other questions for me?
Looks wonderful. I'm going to have to rethink my eat only raw vegetables policy. I hardly ever cook vegetables. I prefer almost all of them raw, and that's tempting.
Yeah, no, and I actually support that idea. Whatever works for you, as long as you're eating fruits and vegetables, that's all that matters. And there's no upper limit in terms of how much you should eat. So great, go for it. And that's great.
So were you going to talk about the spices today, or do you want to do that another time? Why should we be eating turmeric and cumin and?
Yeah, I think, so today I was thinking I could just show you how to cook, but I can talk a little bit more about it, in terms of the main spices. Like I have a presentation on spices, so maybe I can, we can do the presentation at another time, because I think that itself might take time for me to talk about. So how about we can, talk about more in detail about the spices I used today in the presentation part of this, talk. But I can give you a little bit introduction in general that a lot of
that would be great. It seems like you always use cumin seed. Is that true?
Yes.
Is that a personal choice, or is that just you can't do Indian cooking without cumin seed?
I think a little bit of both. So Indian cooking is it's just based on some standard spices, and one of the spices that's used in I would say more than 99% of the dishes is cumin seeds. And if you look into the Ayurvedic texts, which is the ancient medicinal system in India, Ayurveda, they have a reason of why cumin seeds are used in Indian cooking. And the idea is, and first of all, the cumin seeds are the first things that are added in the oil. That's the first thing that goes in the oil. Just like in Italian cooking, the garlic and the red chili flake or pepper goes first. In Indian cooking, it's always the cumin seeds that goes first in the oil. And it's because I think the idea is cumin has helped with, overall gastrointestinal health and digestion. It helps with that as well. So it brings the very, very nice flavor. It's not too strong. It balances out the other flavors, and the oil quickly absorbs the flavor pretty quickly when the oil is hot and you add the cumin seeds in it. So that's one thing that's being used. I'm not aware of the medicinal value of the cumin seeds in terms of the research that's been done. I know that I'm sure all of you know, there's plenty of research in ginger, garlic, and turmeric root itself. In India, you know, where I'm in my hometown, and I'm from the foothills of the Himalayan region. I'm from North India. And in my backyard garden, my mom grows her own turmeric. So turmeric is a rhizome. It looks like, this is not turmeric, but this is ginger root, right? But turmeric looks very much similar to like this. The only thing is if you break it up, it'll be yellow in color inside. So we grow our own turmeric, and then it has to be dried in the sun, and then you make the powder out of it. It's a multi-month kind of process, but the quality of the spice you get with that homegrown organic turmeric is beyond. And I always bring my actual spices to the program when I'm demonstrating cooking, but I want to show it to you if you can see the colors here. It's very rich yellow in color and almost like a golden hue to it, you know, in terms of the intensity, and the flavors are very intense as well. So a little goes a long way for this. But turmeric has actually been studied a lot by the National Institutes of Health, and they have plenty of studies to support now, even though they're not going to make a factual, because they're still working on data. But there are plenty of studies to support that turmeric helps with, it's antimicrobial, antibacterial. So in India, when somebody gets hurt, for example, they have bruises or in their body, the first thing people do is they rub some turmeric, or they apply turmeric poultice, which is you know, just a Band-Aid with turmeric and you know, a few other things in it. So turmeric, for the research of cancer, it has been investigated that in lab studies, it's been shown that it shrinks the tumor cells in cancer research, and has a lot of other, you know, significance. In India, I think it goes beyond the nutritional value or beyond the cooking part of it, because turmeric is used in a lot of religious, cultural, you know, rituals, or in weddings. Turmeric has a very strong significance in Indian weddings, for example, in temples, you name it. So turmeric is a very strong spice when it comes to its usage in the Indian culture overall. And then ginger has always been the to-go remedy. No matter what happens, people say, did you try ginger? So it's like one thing cures everything, that kind of thing. And for ginger, usually the research that we have, very strong research that supports that ginger has helped with nausea and vomiting, especially among pregnant women. So it's, the way I use ginger is pretty straightforward. I make my own tea at home, chai. So I usually, when it's cold outside, because ginger has heat inducing properties as a spice, as a you know, ingredient itself. So I use fresh ginger and I grate it on when I'm boiling water for my tea. Or when I'm, let's say my throat hurts and I'm kind of feeling sick, and you know, I can feel I'm getting cold, something like that. So in that case, I boil some water, and then I just grate fresh ginger on top. I cover the pot for a few minutes, let that flavor seep in, and then I just make this fresh ginger tea. And you can add a teaspoon of honey, a little bit of black pepper powder, and it's great for the throat. And believe me, it helps to kind of calm the system down, and it's very healing because of fresh ginger. The quality of ginger matters, so you know, so you always get the fresh ginger root. It shouldn't be too dry looking. It should have that, you know, it should have that it's fresh. It's not too dry. And if you were to, like, you should be able to break it up like that easily, and because it has moisture in it, and it is good. So that was my the ginger. I'm looking at. It looks like there are some questions in the chat, or maybe some comments. Okay. Okay, Diana is saying growing turmeric is great idea, organic turmeric. I know organic turmeric is very expensive, you name it. Yeah, so I actually get my spices, all of my spices from India. I have a spice guy. He gives me the bulk, you know, and I grade the turmeric from my own home, which is, there's no comparison of that. So, and the turmeric you're saying is anti-inflammatory, definitely. Yes, research has shown that is as useful as ibuprofen. So true. The only thing with these herbs and spices is that sometimes, you know, when they are used in the medicinal dosage, they are used in a large dose usually. And you know, nowadays people are doing research with curcumin, which is the extracted bioactive compound in turmeric. But you know, people have, there's pros and cons of both, because if you look at the spice itself, it's beneficial when eaten whole as a spice. I don't know how helpful is the turmeric in a pill or turmeric or curcumin in a pill, but there are studies that show that if you extract the compound, it can be helpful. So there's mixed data on that. But if you were to ask me from the Indian perspective, yes, we eat turmeric on a daily basis, but it's usually a teaspoon or two in our dishes. It's not in a drink, or we don't add a tablespoon of turmeric in milk and drink that, nothing like that. Some people do actually. Some people, you know, in the night, it helps them sleep. They might add maybe half a teaspoon of turmeric in the milk and add some honey, and it's called the golden milk. But it's not, but usually most of the people are eating turmeric in their cooked dishes. So
when you bring that back from India, how long do you bring, like a whole quart of it, or how long does it last?
So all of my spices are in my freezer. So that's where my spices go, because I know that if I just take some out for my cooking, and then the rest is in my freezer because I want to preserve the quality of it. So I bring a big bag, like a big Ziploc bag full of it. And I always get asked by the custom people, what is this? And I have to explain them, and then they're like, oh, okay. Because I think everybody knows about turmeric, so it's not something controversial or whatever. So yeah, so that's that. And then garlic is another spice we use a lot in Indian cooking. And it's never a ginger garlic paste. Today, in today's convenience, we have ginger garlic paste. You can use that, substitute that. But it's not the same. It's better if you use your own ginger garlic fresh, and you can use a mortar pesto, or you can finely chop it if that works for you better that way. It just brings out the flavors more, and the dish itself is just more lively if you use fresh spices, in my opinion.
Right, and I don't want to put you on the spot. You seem to use individual spices.
Yep.
There's spice blends out there, like curry powders, a bunch of different stuff. And what is garam masala? Is that a blend as well, or?
Yep, so garam masala, I don't use it. By the way, I have it in my freezer, but I use it very occasionally in some mixed dishes, but I don't really use it at all. I have, hey, I can show you, this is my kitchen. So I have I don't know if you can see that, like spice rack here, and I have a lot of spices in my spice rack, you know, so it's just a lot of things here overall. I don't use mixed spices or mixed powders. It's usually the whole spice or the individual, you know, powders, but nothing mixed or blended together. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions for me?
No, this was
Sometimes
great,
if I don't-
Urvashi. Thank you so much. And I will type up your recipe for you and send it to you.
Oh, thank you for doing that, Linda, because believe me, if I made this dish again, it might have a different recipe, because I sometimes just go and I do on the go. So that's how it is. If you can capture that, I mean, even I might be surprised. That's how I made it last time. Interesting. So I appreciate you doing that.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. And maybe I'll see you again soon. We can do a presentation on the spices, just the spices itself one day.
Yeah, we'll chat. That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I close this, I think your meeting will get over because I'm the co-host. So how should we do that? Are we done?